Hey, it's Joe Berardi again. And today I wanted to talk about a concept that I've kind of recently come across kind of a self-reflection with regards to changing. You know, we always want to change. We always want to improve ourselves and become a better version of ourselves. And I remember that when I wanted to lose weight and I wanted to change my life physically and, you know, for better health, etc., that I always looked at it and, you know, most people say, well, it takes you 90 days to change and, you know, a certain amount of time, within 6 months or whatever, you can change your physique, you can change your outlook in life. And I always said, oh my gosh, that's you know, yeah, I can do that, but that's a lot of time. You know, we look for immediate satisfaction. We want that secret sauce, that super pill that we take and immediately we change into the person that we want. What we really don't want to do is put forth the work and the effort, right? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's why diet pills are out there. That's why, you know, quick fixes, you know, go to the cosmetic surgeon or whatever it is. We want change. We don't want to discipline ourselves to actually change, right? And I think we're missing the boat there because it's not about the change, you know, the end product, it's the process to get there. That's our improvement. That's where we benefit the most. You know, there's a saying that the Romans have, it's not the journey, it's not the destination. No, it's not the destination, it's the journey. You know, the destination may be, let's say, weight loss or a great physique or financial success, whatever it is. That's what we go for, but it's really where we benefit the most is the journey to get there. What did we have to do? What did we have to overcome? You know, what did we have to gain and change along the way? I think we lose our perspective when it comes to really why we're in this whole thing, you know, this whole thing called life. It's our progression is we must go through these challenges within our life to that we want to change, because those are the building blocks that actually create us into the character of the person that we need to be, that we're expected to be from our Creator, regardless what your, you know, what your spiritual religious background is, or leaning, or understanding, or interest. There is some type of greatness in the universe that wants us to manifest that within ourselves. And so what I started to learn when I would go through these different phases of change in my life was it wasn't the ultimate goal. It was, what was I learning along the way that improved myself? What were the skills I had to learn? What were the disciplines? Mostly the disciplines. You know, when I wanted to change my life, I realized I noticed certain things, and two concepts always kept coming back to me, and that was discipline and consistency. You have to be disciplined to do those things that you want to do to change. It's a discipline to get up early in the morning and go running. It's a discipline to push away that dessert and say no thank you, or to change a particular habit, to want to spend money on something that you really don't need. You want it, but you don't need it, and you know financially it isn't wise. There's a discipline to pull yourself back and say, okay, no, I won't do it. Or whatever other perhaps challenge you may have in life. Maybe it's to take a drink or to do something that you know isn't good for you. That's a discipline to stop yourself mid-track and say, no, I won't do it. And then a consistency of just doing that over and over again until it becomes a habit. You see, if you look at yourself in the mirror, we are a sum total of everything we've done in our life up to this point. And you have to ask yourself, do you like what you see? And you have to be honest with yourself. You know, we're our biggest critic, right? We have to be honest when we look at that person and say, no, I'm not really happy with what I've become. And the great part is you can change. You have to recognize it, self-evaluate yourself, and then realize you can change. And so I've been working on this concept. It's called 16 Hours. And I'm actually writing a book. I've written 3 books. This will be my 4th book. I'm going to title it something like 16 Hours. Because I realized that when I wanted to change, and when I chopped it down into small little consumable modules, I could change. When I forecasted it out to a long period of time, it became more of a challenge to me, and my mind started to work against me and say, no, it was too hard or too long, or I don't know if I can go 90 days like this, etc. And I would tend to self-defeat. You know, I mean, I'm honest with myself. I know that I will give up because I have in the past. That's one of the things I'm working on in life. One of the disciplines I'm working towards is to not give up, to continue on, to use that consistency. But I understood that if I could break it up into small modules, then it was doable. You see, when I first started to run, I first had to walk because I was out of shape. And so I would walk, and we lived over on the North Shore on Oahu, and there was a bike path, and I would walk along this bike path that was about 1.5 miles, and I would look down the bike path. I could see the end of it, and I could say, oh my gosh, I could never run there. I could never run all the way there because it's hot, I'm overweight, I'm not healthy, out of breath, my lungs couldn't do it, my stomach hurts, you know, all of that excuses, and they were pretty legitimate because at the time it was true. I physically probably couldn't have done that. So I started to walk it. Then after a while, that walk started to turn into like, well, I can now start to run a little bit of it. And I noticed that along this bike path was a fence, because there were horses on the other side, and that kept the horses in. And so there was a fence, and fences are made with posts and pickets. And I would notice that, you know, every so often there'd be a post, and that the sun would cast a shadow on this path, and I could see those posts. And when I started to run that path, instead of looking down the road 1.5 miles away to see that faraway goal, that my mind would start to tell me that how difficult it was, I actually just bent my head down and I just kept focus in front of me. And I noticed those posts that would cast a shadow on the path. And you know what I did was I started to run from post to post. You see, what I was doing mentally was I was creating small victories. All I had to do was make it to the next post. That's all I had to do. And so as I would run and I'd make it to the next post, I said to myself, well, you could do it to the next one, and the one after that, and the one after that. I kept my head down, focused on small goals that became larger goals that eventually became my ultimate success. I was able to actually run that bike path without any problem, because I took that big goal and I chopped it up into small consumable goals that allowed me small victories that kept me going emotionally. It allowed me momentum. And when we have momentum in our life, it gains. It's that ball that's rolling down the hill. It's that little snowball that eventually rolls and gathers, becomes larger and larger until you have this huge avalanche that goes down the hill. It starts small and gains momentum or success. You see, gaining small successes lead us to our larger goal. My larger goal was to run a long distance. And by doing that, it allowed me to get to where I wanted to be. Therefore, I came up with the goal or the concept of 16 hours. See, if you tell me that, oh, in 90 days, Joe, you can change your physique and you can get healthy, then yeah, I got to stick it out for 90 days. How many of us have started off on a New Year's resolution, and within a couple of weeks or maybe even a couple of months, it just kind of fizzled and fell to the side? It's because it was a big goal. So I decided to chop up my goal into 16 hours. Now, why do I do 16 hours? Well, it's quite simple. We're awake, within one day we have 24 hours. Let's assume that we sleep 8. That leaves us 16. See, when I reduced my goal down to just 16 hours, I could do anything. Whether that is exercising, or whether that is eating right, or whether that is spending my money wisely, all I had to do is concentrate 16 hours to do it. Let's take an example. So I want to lose weight, let's say, and I get myself into a program. All I have to do is just conquer 16 hours. That's it. And once I do that, and then I go to bed, I get up the next day and I do it over again. I'm just going to take it one day at a time and focus not on the big goal, but focus on the small goal of getting through 16 hours during the day without making bad habits with the way I eat, or by doing an exercise, or by spending wisely. And you know what happens is over a period of time, relatively shortly, those start to build into what becomes a habit. Something that you become a discipline. You become committed to that because you've taken it in small pieces and allowing it to build within you the character traits that are going to allow you to keep going. And until at one point where you reach that successful level and you just look back and you say, oh my gosh, I did it. I'm here. I've reached my goal. Isn't that great? I mean, taking it in small steps allows us to actually focus our energy in small little spurts, small little sprints. Get us to the finish line. Think about that. What in your life do you want to change? The only difference between being successful at making that change are the tools you use to get there. And the tools are all around us. I really want you to think about that. What are some of the things that you could start immediately changing in your life if you started to utilize some of these small, proven tools? Remember, success is never an accident.